Welcome to DTV. I'm with Jade Rawlings in the lead up to the round 6 clash this week down at Geelong. And Jade, big week coming up, but you've had the review against the Saints. 18 points, close contest, but not quite. What's this week sort of come out of the review?
Yeah, we're really happy with the competitive levels of the guys for 4 quarters. We were really pleased at how they attacked the footy, and I think we had a highest tackle count for the year, and just our overall pressure across the ground. Mackenzie smother in the third quarter was another example of just how we pressured the ball. We're really disappointed that just a couple of stages, especially through the last quarter, we got away from our structure, how we'd actually set up for the night. And through that period, St Kilda were able to just get a couple of important goals. So it was 5 points, 6 points for most of the game, then 2 goals in the middle part, which just broke our back. So a lot of pleasing aspects with our competitive levels, but still a way to go with how we execute our game style.
Big challenge coming up this weekend against Geelong down at the Cattery. Obviously, a lot of people externally are talking about last year's game, but something the club's been trying to put on the back burner, I guess, this week. How are you focusing on this game?
Purely about what's the challenge ahead of us about being Geelong. The last year thing, there's a lot of things have changed and a lot of water gone on the bridge since then, so it's something we haven't mentioned at all. I don't know if the players are talking about it much, but we know for a fact that our players are really disappointed they didn't win the other night. They're not just happy with being competitive, which is pleasing from a coaching perspective, but they're really determined to go down and put another competitive effort, which hopefully leads to a result. But certainly they are really determined to go and to take another step forward from where they've come from the last 2 weeks.
Do you feel the group's almost at their most confident entering a game this week based on their last 2 performances, which have been, within 4 goals?
I'm not sure if they're at their most confident. I think they're at their most determined as far as they've seen progress in the last couple of weeks after a poor first 3 games, and an opportunity to take another step forward with what they've demonstrated against the Bulldogs and now the Saints from last week. So I think they are really determined. Like, from a resilience point of view, we've been impressed as a coaching group about how they've kept, once they understand what broke down or what happened, and they're clear on that, they're really keen to drive the standards to enable us to improve again. So that's pleasing from a coaching element.
Last week, missed Chip Frawley, which was a shame, but it allowed Tom McDonald to play on Rewalt and prosper there. How did you rate his game and also the backline group? Yeah,
well, James was a really late decision. It only really came upon us on about the Thursday that he was a bit tight, and we still thought he'd get through, and the decision was more long-term that we didn't want to risk it. The risk assessment was if James didn't play that Tom would get the job on Nick Rewalt, and we were all, even though he was a 5-game player going into the game, from what he's shown to us and his level of commitment and competitiveness, we thought he could do a competitive job, and we walked away thinking that he was a very good player for us. I think Saints would say they were happy with Rewalt's contribution, but Tom gave him a contest the whole night. He did a lot of good things. He attacked the ball still rather than just being totally consumed by Rewalt, so that was a good step forward for Tom, and analysed his game thoroughly with him the other day. And yeah, there's just keep throwing as many challenges at Tom as we can in the short term to find out as much about him, because we think he's definitely a long-term prospect for us. Yeah.
Getting a bit of continuity, I know Grimes missed the game as well, but down back with that sort of group, how are you finding it overall?
Yeah, they had a fair bit thrown at them. We defended, I think it was about 140 odd inside 50s in 2 weeks there against the Eagles and Richmond, so it was pretty challenging. But there is a core group that are starting to develop some chemistry between Bartram, Grimes, who did miss the Bulldogs game through suspension, but Rivers has been really good. John McDonald, out of the 5 games, has played 4 and been pretty solid. Frawley's been good. Bartram's in good form. Tapscott helped us out a little bit the other night. Tom McDonald's come in and been of really good service to us also. So we're starting to develop a bit of chemistry there, and they're starting to look quite difficult to play against, but they can be very quickly changed if we're off the guard mentally by only 5%.
D's have unfortunately had a horrible record down at the Cattery, winning about 3 in the last 28 games or something down there. What can you do to actually win this week and achieve somewhat of an upset outside of the club for sure? Yeah,
well, the 3 from 28, it does not even cross the players' minds, and certainly doesn't from a coaching group either. But we're developing how we want to play, and we put a lot of time into how Geelong play as a coaching group, and we drip feed that information to the players, what we think they need to know. And we're very, very conscious of how we go and compete. And I think our supporters would have thought, and most of the footy public, the last we've felt the last 2 weeks. I think most people probably thought just last week how we've competed and put pressure on and gone and win the hard ball has been at a level which people think, yep, that's what we want to see our team doing. So that's what we're really putting our energies into. Yeah, there's some match-up things that we've got to try and get right to try and get some ascendancy our way, but how we approach the game is the most important part, and we think with that mentality, a lot of our game style and opportunities to really push the Cats will come from there.
Going to be a tough one, but great opportunity for the D's, and best wishes for the weekend.
Thanks, Matt.